Welcome to the next lecture. So in this lecture we will learn more about the forms. So last time we have created uh, lecture 5 with forms for part 1. Now we will create our lecture 6 with forms. We will learn more attributes about the forms in this lecture, right? So we will create index.html, and I will share a trick with you in this video. Instead of writing all that HTML and so on, you can just type this apostrophe and just click enter, and it will write all the code for you. And then you can just write form part 2 over here, and in the body we will start it with, for example, form attributes. Okay, so what you need to remember this. You just type in this and then open then write it, and it will automatically fill all the page with all the basic tags and everything. So I have just opened this file which we have just created. So the first attribute we will learn is the value attribute. So for example, we create a HR here. HR is the horizontal line. Okay, so if we save it and if we refresh this page, or if we just reduce this area to see the changes accordingly. So we all know that for H2 we can say, okay, we are studying about the value attribute of the form. So if I just refresh it, here it comes the value attribute. And to see the value attribute, we need to start a form. So for example, I just started a simple form, and in that form I put a label for an email, for example, and I say email is the input field I will create as type email. And here is the trick. So what we need to do is, so if I just create this and save it and see how it looks like, so we can see it's just an email over here, right? And we can write inside that email. If we put a br tag over here, it will be like this. So what the value attribute do is, if we can put, for example, a value of the cwt trainings.com. So what we will see over here is, now we can see a default value. Okay, default value of this, we can remove it and we can change it as well. So this helps us to give a specific value to an input field. We can give this to any input field. For example, if we have a number input field, we can give the default values of that to that attribute. There is another attribute which is called actually the read only attribute. So we can add the comments over here, and we can say, for example, read only attribute. It's nice to add the comments, so you understand whenever you are working around the things, you know that okay, what you are developing, and later when you study your code, you know that okay, this is the value attribute section. Now for example, you are writing about the read only attribute section. So if we refresh it, we have not changed inside this. So if we put at the end only read only and save and refresh, so now we can't remove it. Okay, and either we cannot change it as well. So you need to keep that in mind, that read only attribute is an attribute which do not allow to change anything. Okay, similarly, if we move forward and look for another attribute which is called the disabled attribute. Actually, now in read only we can copy this thing, and if we paste it here, it was pasted as well. But there is another attribute which is called disabled attribute. Okay, so what disabled attribute do is it do not allow to copy anything. Okay, so if we put instead of read only we put disabled and save and refresh, so now we can see it. We cannot copy that, I mean select that section. Here we can select it and copy it, and we cannot select the values from this because this whole unclickable section. You can see if you try to see the background of this here. Okay, it's gray, right? So this is the difference between the read only attribute and disabled. It shows a disabled value. It's the browser which is allowing, but otherwise it won't allow the things to be selected. And then there are few more attributes which are very important. So I just copy over this section and I will that is called the size attributes. Actually size shows the length of that thing. So if I just remove the disabled and put the size as 150, default it's 20. Okay, so I refresh you so you can see that the length is increased according to the size we have given over here. The default size is 20, and if I change to 10 you can see this is different from this. So this is how the size attribute works. So sometimes you need little longer inputs, you can change the size of that as well. Then moving forward, there are few more attributes, like for example this was the size of the input field. Now we have some range as well, like for example we can put the maximum length of the field as well, like x number of values we can add. So for example if I change this to a age, and we will say that we need the age only, for example less than 40. Okay, so then what will happen is less than 40 age. You can add the other HTML attribute as well and change the ID to age, and type you we need the number. And now instead in the value we will not put anything. And in the size, instead of size what we will do is we will give a maximum length value, and we can say okay you can put your age in two numbers only. I mean you cannot put outside 100 for example. So I can say if the maximum length is 100 and refresh and then try, and once we write it, okay, okay, this is the maximum length of the numbers. Okay, so if I put 3, sorry, 1 second. So if I just put 3 and we refresh, then 1 2 3 4, maximum length is 3. What does that mean, maximum length? There is some error, let's check. Okay, maximum length attributes shows the number of values. So value we are not putting anything, and we are saying maximum length is 3. Okay, then it should allow us the values only with 3, right? 10. Okay, it's working now. Okay, I refresh it, and if we try to put again 1 2 3, in typing it's not working, but in once we select that input field maximum length. Okay, let's check what is HTML maximum length. Not working. Let's search that about maximum. It will not working in Chrome and Safari. Maximum length class. Okay, what they see is okay you can try through JavaScript. Okay, input type on to type if this value length maximum length. Okay, try the number max. Let's try this. Instead of maximum length, let's try max. So okay, 1 2 3, that's the same case as well. Maximum length, let's check that on maximum length HTML W3 schools. Okay, attribute is maximum length. If we give the maximum length, for example 2, and run it, okay, the maximum length works only with the text input field, not with the input number. So let's try this way. Let's try now. Okay, refresh, and now okay, now it's working. So which means that the maximum length is the characters length that works with the input field text. So that's a good thing for you guys to learn as well. It will not work with the number. To make things work with the number, we have other options, which is called the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so minimum or maximum attributes. So let's try those. So what are the minimum and the maximum attributes? Actually it will work in a range. Okay, so the value, that value will work on number, I guess, right? So age less than 100, and if we put in, okay, input type should be the number, and minimum age should be minimum length of that value should be, for example, we can choose anything between, like for example 20, and maximum we can say okay 30. Save it and refresh. Okay, so that is the minimum length, and if we go up, it's not going above the 30. So that is the range for minimum and a maximum. And moving forward, there is another attribute which is called the multiple attributes. Okay, so what multiple attributes do, you remember in the last lecture we studied about the files, right? So we can say okay, files type is also files, and we can say the ID as files. So what it's do is, actually multiple attribute helps to choose the multiple files. Okay, sorry, input type file, it's not files. Okay, so no file chosen. So for example, if we try to find a file, okay, and if we press command, then we can select the multiple files, and it shows 3 files selected. If we remove this multiple and then refresh the page and then try to select the file, it will select one only at one time. Okay, and it will show only the one. So to choose multiple files, you need to add the attribute multiple carefully. Okay, that will help you to choose the multiple files. Then we have few more attributes, like for example pattern attribute. Now pattern attribute stops you to adding the things which are not in the pattern. Okay, so for example, if we are writing the numbers, or if we are writing the digits, so then we can say that okay, this is the value and the pattern. So for example, for emails, we validate the email should be correct always, or the numbers should be always correct. At that time you use the patterns. Okay, so for example, if you want only numbers inside the value, then we can say that okay, age, and let's remove this. Age is the file type, should be text, it will work with text. Okay, and we can say it ID as age as well. And how the pattern works is, we will say okay, we need only the values between 0 to 9 with a length of 2. Okay, only the length of 2. So if we, then we need to add, for that I think we need the curly brackets. Okay, because that is the condition. And input type also we need a submit button, so we can test it. Okay, we can say the value as submit, for example. So if we save it and refresh, so pattern attribute, we try to submit, it's submitting the form, and it should require the values of the pattern as well. Okay, so how it should work is input type submit, value submit. Patterns are used to define the pattern. Okay, fine. Age, we are trying to accommodate age inside that. Okay, once we submit it, okay, then it should check the pattern, submit, and it says please match the requested format, because it's saying we need only numbers which are total in 2. Okay, so if we put 2 numbers, then it's submitted. If we even put 3 numbers, it says please match the request pattern. So you need to remember this. Okay, this is 0 to 9. The numbers should be always 0 to 9, I mean any numbers. And for to there is another pattern as well, I will add in comments so you can learn about that. That is to check the a and alphabetics. Okay, that is called a to z, and the small letters also a to z, and then you can add the length of 4 5 whatever length you need. Okay, you also try that, and then try to put a number and then try to click submit. It will show you errors accordingly. Okay, there is one more thing, attribute I remember, is that is about the placeholders. That's very easy. So if we just quickly see that as well, those placeholders is actually called a hint as well. Okay, so if you put the placeholders, then it will show you that file, that thing as an hint. So for example, if we make this as name, and this is an input type text, and in the once we put there is no placeholder, then it will show is empty input field. Okay, this one. So if I put a placeholder, and in the placeholder, for example, I put the John, and I refresh, and I can see that that value is not changeable. Okay, that's just a value. And there is one more attribute that is called required, so we can test in this submit. So if we put required and try to submit, it will it says please fill out this field, because that is required. Okay, so before submitting, you can add a required. For example, if I add a required here, and then if I try to submit this form, then what we will see is it says this field is required. Okay, so that is another attribute. So I hope you have learned a lot in this. So try to make few assignments. Let me share some assignments with you. So those assignments you need to work on, so the way you can practice more. Here you can see a form. Okay, survey form. Try to put some css if you can try. Okay, name, email, age. Here is a drop down, select, and so on. You can add 4 5 options here, 4 5 options here. Okay, on this assignment. Then there is another assignment. The more assignments you do work as your own, you will learn more. Okay, input type text, this is called text area, radio buttons, checkbox, and drop down, and a submit form button. So this is how you can learn that. There is one more assignment, last assignment of the forms. So please try to do this as well. It has everything, like for example, input fields, drop downs, radio buttons, checkbox, text area button. So you may need to play little bit with the css as well. Okay, we will study the css as well later on, but you just try it, and try to make something like that of assignments. If you will not be able to do, it's okay. I am going to help you in the next lectures anyway. Thanks for watching.